Over the past two seasons, only reigning NL Cy Young winner Sandy Alcantara has made more starts than Charlie Morton. There is no question that he has been durable for the Atlanta Braves rotation. Welcome into another BPTV. Cory, McCartney, and Grant McAuley with you as always. And Grant, Morton was there to punch the clock every day again in 2022, but the results, they were not always up to standard from what we've expected from a pitcher about to enter his 16th big league season.
No, it was not the same Charlie Morton we saw in 2021. There's no two ways about that. He's the tested veteran that you want at the front of your rotation, and he was there to take the ball every fifth day, but a real drop in productivity and a huge difference between maybe Sandy Alcantara's last couple of years and Charlie Morton's last couple of years is right in the middle of it. Charlie had to deal with a broken leg that he had to rehab and come back from last year. I'm not sure that it hampered his production, but it just seemed like mechanically, pitch-wise, something just wasn't quite there, and we saw a guy who was a 4.5 WAR player in 2021, dropped to 1.5 in 2022, his lowest output since prior to his renaissance signing with the Houston Astros. So a lot to unpack for Charlie, but hopefully still with what he's been able to show since becoming a true front of the rotation starter, he's able to kind of recapture that magic for the Braves in 2023 because Atlanta's banking on that.
Yeah, that's all the foundation as we dive into what went right, what went wrong, and what's next for Morton. Morton made 31 starts in 2022, remarkably, as you mentioned, not being derailed in the slightest after that fractured right fibula he'd suffered in the World Series. Considering the lockout, it kept players from even communicating with, let alone working with team medical staff. I thought that was impressive in its own right. Led the Braves in strikeouts with 205, his second straight 200 strikeout season with Atlanta, fourth in a row in 162 game seasons. The pitch wasn't as effective as it was in 2021, which I'll get into later, but the curveball was still very good in 2022. Morton was tied for 11th with a -8 run value, had a 171 average against, a 41.8 whiff rate that was topped by only the Astros. Framber Valdez among those who really rely on the pitch. In his age 38 season, you couldn't say he had shown any signs of physical decline. Morton's average four-seamer was at 94.9, just a tick below 2021's 95.5. Grant, the physical tools all still there, and that was evident in the 2022 season.
Yeah, it really was. And if you told me, despite seeing the broken leg in the World Series in 2021, that, hey, Charlie's going to be ready, he's going to take the ball from the very start of the season, he's not going to miss a start, he's not going to spend any time on the injured list, and he's actually going to strike out slightly more batters per nine than he did in his first year in Atlanta and eclipse 200 strikeouts again, I would have said, hey, all the things are there that you need, all the ingredients that you need for another Charlie Morton-esque season. But the walk rate was up quite a bit, and I think it's his most in about 6 or 7 years. And then you also throw in kind of the hit batsman, and then the real problem for Charlie Morton last year, the highest home run rate in any 162-game season for him since way back in 2010 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So we're looking at a Charlie Morton that seemed to be in different phases of his career almost. It was like he was kind of bouncing through time or something, maybe bouncing through the Charlie Morton, multiverse or something. I don't know, but it just seemed like he would put some things together, then run into the trouble inning. And it seemed like the home run was the real problem for him throughout the course of the season because it in fact was.
Yeah, it really was. It was home runs, hit batters, and walks. I mean, that's a lot of what went wrong for Morton this past season. He gave up 10 more home runs than he had in any season of his career with 2080. He hit 18 batters, which was 2 more than Max Fried, Kyle Wright, and Spencer Strider combined. He walked 63. I mentioned the curveball was still very good in 2022, but it was nowhere near as effective as it was in 2021 when he led the majors with a run value of -22. It didn't help that he had the issues with the four-seamer, which was had a slugging percentage that had jumped 104 points year over year to 469. He gave up 14 home runs on that pitch, the most of his career. That led to an exit velocity on the curve being up, the highest of any 162-game season. His overall hard hit rate, the highest ever for him in the StatCast era. Things also didn't end especially well. Morton lasted just 2 innings in the decisive game of the NLDS, where he was chased after allowing just 3 runs on 4 hits against the Phillies. So it felt like, Grant, a lot more went wrong than went right for Morton in 22.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way around that for Charlie this year. And I think it was just some surprising things. It didn't necessarily make it the worst year of his career, but it just seemed like he had kind of backtracked to the old Charlie Morton. The 28 home runs allowed, as you mentioned, the most he's ever allowed in a season. Worst walk rate in 4 years. 18 hit batsmen, second most ever. And then his highest ERA since 2015, his highest fielding independent pitching since 2010. So you just kind of kept going through these stats and thinking, which Charlie Morton are we getting here? Is it the guy that the Braves had traded away? way back in the day, or is it the guy that can front a rotation? And at times, I think you saw both of those pitchers, and it was that Jekyll and Hyde that kind of just made you wonder, was Charlie Morton going to be back in 2023? The Braves already answered that question by extending him, basically picking up his option, adding another option year. And when you look at what happened with the free agent market as far as starting pitchers are concerned, I can't necessarily say that that's a bad, quote unquote, 1-year deal for them, but they definitely want to see Charlie be able to move back towards the pitcher that he has shown that he can be, and that showed flashes of last season as they move into 2023, really counting on him to once again go to the post every fifth day, provide innings, and also do the things we've become accustomed to, and that's miss a lot of bats and throw one of the best curveballs in baseball.
Yeah, back on a 1-year, $20 million deal. He's got a matching team option for the 2024 season. And you could argue that after a normal offseason, one where he's not coming back from injury, that he could rebound. But you consider they made 31 starts in 2022, and there wasn't any major drop in velocity. What ailed Morton the past season may have had little to do with his coming back from a broken leg. The Fangraphs Steamer projections have him with a 3.8 ERA, a 2.6 FWAR, all forecasting a still elevated home runs per 9 of 1.06. Morton's never been that high in back-to-back seasons, but he's a guy, Grant, that has reinvented himself time and time again throughout his career. And with the arsenal still intact, I think there has to at least be hope that, this is an extremely cerebral pitcher who's a crafty guy who's going to figure something out.
Yeah, and if you've ever talked to Charlie Morton about pitching, understand it's not going to be a short conversation. This is a guy who really is so thoughtful and so intentional about all the things that he thinks about, all the things that he takes into account when he is looking at ways to improve and I think make the adjustments that he needs to. So if there's anybody that you can hand this Rubik's Cube to at age 39 and say, hey, we need you to work the problem again and kind of get back to where you were, I think Charlie Morton is going to be the kind of guy, not just a workhorse every fifth day on the mound, but in between starts, the cerebral nature in which he has approached the game of baseball that has led to his late career surge. I think that's still very much there. If he can find a way to limit the home runs, keep the ball in the park, which had never really been a problem for him, to the rate that it was last year, and with the tools that he has, still with a good fastball, great velocity, and that great curveball, I still feel like the ingredients are there for Charlie Morton to have a better season than 2022, if not get back to his 2021 standard.
Well, it's certainly something that the Braves are going to be banking on. And we'll be back with plenty more here on BPTV as we get closer to the start of spring training. So make sure that you subscribe, turn on notifications, and be a friend of the program and spread the word to help this thing grow. Don't forget, you can also find us on From the Diamond, available wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Cory McCartney. He's Grant McAuley, and we'll see you soon, Braves Country.